HomeLander was born sometime in the spring of 1981. He was created from the DNA of Soldier Boy, America's first and greatest superhero. Born with unbelievable powers, he was raised in a lab and was surrounded by doctors like Jonah Vogelbaum, who named him John. In a conversation with Butcher, Vogelbaum remarked that John was a sweet child in his early days between ages 5 and 6 who'd cuddled up to him and loved hearing stories. However, needing John to become the strongest man in the world came at the cost of him turning him into a violent, aggressive, wrathful, and downright hateful individual. Throughout his childhood, John was put through painful and traumatic physical experiments and surgeries to test the true limits of his abilities. Some of these tests included having his hand forced into a furnace, being boiled alive, and being forced to fight strength-enhanced Vought guards. He was also put under long, strict, and tedious mental conditioning and was forced to spend hours sitting in front of a projector that displayed images that were chosen to mold his personality and turn him into a symbol of the nation itself. As a child, HomeLander had accidentally killed countless female tutors, the most notable incident of which being on March of 1994, when he hugged a woman using far too much strength, breaking her spine and instantly killing her. While these behaviors were usually motivated by indignation, this time it was by isolation-induced depression. At some point during this period, he also developed a sociopathic alternate personality that helped him get through the bad room. Growing up, HomeLander was a fan of Soldier Boy, watching all of his movies hundreds of times. HomeLander respected Soldier Boy for being the only other supe in existence who was nearly as strong as him, and idolized the latter as his hero, not knowing at the time that they were father and son. Years later, John became the new member of the Seven, Vaught's premier superhero team. He was presented by Stan Edgar and Madeline Stillwell to the public as the HomeLander. After his introduction, Noir came onto the stage, immediately stealing much of the attention that John had garnered under the spotlight, to his and Stillwell's anger. Following this, Stillwell convinced John not to let Black Noir upstage him and to simply go by the name HomeLander. HomeLander is soon teamed up with Noir on his first mission, which is stopping a group of terrorists who have taken hostages at a chemical plant. Refusing to wait for Black Noir, HomeLander immediately went inside and subdued 2 of the terrorists, breaking one's nose in the process. He then confronted the rest. When they refused to back down, HomeLander twisted their guns. However, one of the terrorists still held a hostage at gunpoint, despite the gun not working anymore. HomeLander, horribly underestimating his abilities, used his heat vision to heat up the gun, causing it to explode, killing the hostage and destroying the man's hand. When the man's associates started screaming at him, he lost his mind and clamped his hand over her mouth, accidentally ripping out her jaw. This leads the hostages screaming at him and calling him a monster, resulting in him killing everybody in a fit of rage, leaving only one hostage still alive. Black Noir then appeared in the doorway. Thinking that Noir would rat him out to vote, HomeLander attempted to kill Black Noir with his heat vision, but ended up accidentally bringing down the entire plant. After pulling himself out of the rubble, HomeLander saw the hostage crawl out of the wreckage and towards a still-alive Black Noir. However, to HomeLander's surprise, Noir coldly snapped the woman's neck while comforting her. Noir then helped HomeLander come up with an excuse to cover up the failure of the mission. This event led to mutual respect and genuine friendship between the HomeLander and Black Noir. HomeLander met Becca Butcher at a Vought private Christmas party in 2011. He talked with Becca, the new senior director from the Department of Digital Marketing of Vought, and said that he loved the work she did with his official Twitter profile. Before ending the conversation to see Queen Maeve, HomeLander said that he would like to talk about her taking over the rest of his social media accounts. Shortly after the two met, HomeLander coerces Becca into having sex with him, ultimately leading to the birth of Ryan sometime in mid-2012. This event also sparked the course of the entire series, as it fueled Billy Butcher's hatred for soups and led to him forming the Boys. However, unbeknownst to Homelander and Butcher, Becca went to Madeline Stillwell and Jonah Vogelbaum after getting pregnant. The two secretly kept Becca in witness protection, where she began to raise Homelander's son alone. Later, after finding out that the mayor of Baltimore had knowledge about Compound Phi, Homelander assured that the existence of the chemical remained a secret by destroying his private jet, taking the mayor's life in the process, as well as his son, who was excited after receiving an autographed poster of his favorite hero, Homelander himself. In an informal meeting, Homelander asks about the whereabouts of Translucent. Stillwell gives a direct answer, saying that she doesn't know where he is yet. After that, Stillwell makes an observation about the mayor of Baltimore. Homelander tries to play it cool, but she knows that it was him who took the jet down. The two of them have a discussion about what Homelander represents. Unhappy about the Deep's choice of telling Stillwell about the jet's destruction, Homelander requests the presence of his fellow associate in the meeting room of the Seven Tower. There, they talk about the unfortunate choice of telling Stillwell about the laser beam marks on the jet that the Deep made. Homelander makes his points clear. The Deep keeps his mouth shut, or there will be no Deep to sniff him anymore. Later, Homelander goes to Crime Analytics and asks Annika the last known location of Translucent. At first, she's not sure if she can share that information with him, to which Homelander replies with a straight, "I can do whatever the fuck I want." Annika gets the message and gives Homelander the information he wants. Homelander flies to the 10 blocks where Translucent is expected to be. There, he sees a van. Inside the van, there is Frenchie. Homelander doesn't know he's an enemy, so he casually asks for his ID. Frenchie gives it to him, but refuses to let Homelander get a look at the back of the van. This causes him to be suspicious. Homelander decides to look anyway with his X-ray vision, only to see nothing there. Soon, an explosion happens some blocks away, part of a plan to keep Homelander off where Translucent really is. Homelander then goes for it, flying in the direction of the fire. However, he finds nothing there. Later, Queen Maeve and Homelander go to a high-rise building where a sniper is hiding. A SWAT team is in position, but the arrival of 2 members of the Seven makes them step back. Homelander, with his impressive theatrics, praises the law officers and calls them real heroes. After that, Maeve and Homelander enter the building. Homelander kills the sniper by penetrating his hand through his chest. In order to keep up appearances, Homelander shoots the sniper's gun several times at Maeve's armor, just to make it look like they were attacked first. Then, Homelander arrives at the race when Queen Maeve is being interviewed, drawing all attention to him. He makes a speech to the spectators, and after that he says, almost whispering, "You fucking cocksuckers," showing his true feelings about everybody there that isn't a soup. Then, he and Maeve start a conversation, and Homelander remembers the time when the two of them were dating. He looks back with sincere joy and a feeling of nostalgia. He even tries to get closer to her, with the attendants shouting, "Kiss her," but Maeve steps back. After the conversation is over, Homelander sees that Billy Butcher, whom he vaguely recognizes, is looking at him in an odd way. After the race is over, Homelander goes back to the Seven Tower. There, he and the Deep show Stillwell a box. She opens it and sees Translucent's remains. Homelander asks Deep what the box is made of, to which he answers zinc, the only thing Homelander can't see through. Inside the box, there is a message, "Coming for you," which is basically a declaration of war against Homelander and the Seven. After some time, when a transatlantic flight is hijacked by terrorists, Stillwell sees an opportunity to promote her agenda of getting soups into the military. While the plane is over international waters, she sends Maeve and Homelander to save the plane, believing that a successful rescue of the passengers means that no congressman will dare vote against soups in the military. Homelander and Maeve are easily able to board the plane and kill the terrorists to the applause of the grateful passengers. However, when they enter the cockpit, they find one more terrorist pointing a gun at the pilot. Before the Supes can stop him, the terrorist shoots the pilot. HomeLander then uses his heat vision to kill the terrorist, inadvertently destroying the flight controls in the process. Maeve appeals to HomeLander to try and save the plane, but HomeLander points out that he could not carry the plane without a solid surface to stand on. HomeLander maintains that they can only abandon the passengers to die. Maeve then appeals to HomeLander to save at least a mother and her daughter. HomeLander refuses, saying that if they save some passengers and let the rest die, the few who survived will tell the world that the two of the greatest heroes of the world did nothing to save the rest. Maeve, seeing no other choice, embraces HomeLander, and together they get out of the plane and fly off. In the distance, they see the plane falling towards the ocean. Hours later, HomeLander and Maeve are seen on a beach where the plane wreckage is washing ashore. Maeve is truly grieving the loss of the passengers. Meanwhile, HomeLander decides to act up and gives a speech to the news crews there, appealing to the audience, saying that if superheroes were on the chain of command of the military, the tragedy of Flight 37 would never happen. In the 7 Tower, Stillwell watched the speech on her TV with a smirk on her face, knowing that in a way, HomeLander did his job. Later, A-Train tells HomeLander that he killed his girlfriend Popclaw after she told some guys about Compound V. HomeLander then said to his colleague that he did the right thing by telling him. HomeLander comforts A-Train, but not before making an ominous remark like, "I'll always be watching you." In the memorial made for the victims of Flight 37, HomeLander gives a speech, mentioning every victim by name and job. HomeLander then mentions Susan Lopez and her daughter Maya, the two people Maeve wanted to save. HomeLander, after finishing the speech, finds Maeve seated on a wood bench. Maeve justifies her leaving the memorial early because she hates boring speeches. HomeLander sits on her side and tries to talk to her. He says that the one thing he loves in Maeve is that she takes initiative. By the end of his pep talk, Maeve says one more time that she hates boring speeches. After the remark, silence strikes the place. HomeLander then arrives at the festival, and seconds later, a huge crowd starts to follow him, asking for photos and autographs. The leader of the 7 just waves and smiles at them, and right after he enters a private place where he can be alone. There, he asks Ashley Barrett, "Where's Stillwell?" to which she responds that the vice president of Vought International isn't there. HomeLander then goes to see Stillwell, who is taking her son Teddy to the pediatrician. HomeLander wants to make a speech that appeals to the public of the festival, focusing on faith and a John Wayne justice, while Stillwell wants a moderate speech that can make congressmen identify. When HomeLander doesn't get what he wants, he says that Stillwell is running off the discussion to play a strong single mom and that she is using the baby as an accessory. Stillwell just answers that they need boundaries. Before leaving, HomeLander stares at the baby. HomeLander then gets back to the festival and enters the VIP room. There, he talks to Huey Campbell, a friend of Starlight. They talk for a short amount of time. Then, Ezekiel says that everyone in the room will be rebaptized by HomeLander. One by one, the participants are rebaptized. In Huey's turn, HomeLander asks if something is wrong with him because his blood pressure is 150/90. Huey just says that he's afraid of water. Then, HomeLander proceeds to rebaptize him, but this time, HomeLander is taking longer to get Huey out of water. Afraid, Huey rises, after almost drowning. HomeLander then gives the speech, but instead of following the script as ordered by Stillwell, he improvises, putting a speech biased in Christianity and patriotism, and everyone in the crowd rejoices. HomeLander then flies low towards the crowd, making him look like a messianic symbol. Later, Stillwell notices HomeLander watching her through the wall. She invites him in, mockingly asking if he is lonely. She warns about the speech he gave and has him lay on the couch, suckling her breast as a way to tame him. In order to further sell the idea of soupes in the military, Vought decided to make a reality show featuring members of the 7. HomeLander then was brought to a house he had never seen before, and he had to make up a story about his childhood there, so the Vought crew could shoot it and send the footage to the reality show. HomeLander said a lot of things about his childhood, from baseball trophies to cakes. When he reached the bedroom, he saw the blanket he really used in his childhood locked in a lab. Triggering some painful memories, HomeLander became angry and asked who put the blanket there, and left the place right after that. Stillwell found HomeLander in a barn. HomeLander explained to her why he didn't want to shoot the promotional videos, but Stillwell managed to make him change his mind using the sexual attraction HomeLander had to her. Later, after meeting with the boys, Mesmer called A-Train and asked to see HomeLander, saying that he had useful information. With his request answered, Mesmer goes to meet HomeLander on a rooftop. There, he shows HomeLander spy cam photos of the people he was looking after: a French guy, a black guy, a skinny white guy, and a British guy. Mesmer then proceeded to ask HomeLander for a job at Vought, but HomeLander just flew away without any promises. After looking at the photos of the boys, he stops and sees one photo in particular. He realizes that Billy Butcher is the same guy who was staring at him at the race of the century, who happened to be the man he met in 2011 when he talked to his wife, Becca, at a Vought private Christmas party. Soon after this, at a meeting, HomeLander criticizes the Seven for having been unreliable and sloppy recently, except for Black Noir, since he's been obeying orders very well recently. HomeLander then shows the Seven a picture of Huey, declaring that Huey is responsible for the death of Translucent, blackmailing Mesmer, Ezekiel, and Popclaw. He throws it over to A-Train, who doesn't recognize Huey at first, until the photo is zoomed out to show that it was from when they shook hands in that very room. HomeLander also says that Huey is targeting the Seven following Robin's death, blaming A-Train for it and seeking vengeance. Starlight, after she recognizes Huey, is the main target of HomeLander. HomeLander begins to suspect Starlight of any possible involvement in aiding the boys. After a tense confrontation in which Starlight feared for her life, Maeve was able to calm an angry HomeLander, promising to take responsibility for Starlight and her future actions. After the reunion, HomeLander entered Stillwell's room. After Stillwell finishes a call with a senator, she reveals to HomeLander that they only needed 3 votes to get the Seven into the military. HomeLander questions if Stillwell remembers Becca Butcher, revealing that she is missing, presumed dead. HomeLander asks what happened to her. However, Stillwell says that she presumed Becca just quit, raising HomeLander's suspicions. HomeLander arrives at the mansions of Jonah Vogelbaum, a former scientist at Vought who raised him in a lab. HomeLander tries to be formal. He asks some irrelevant questions, but Vogelbaum is direct and asks HomeLander what he really wants. HomeLander then questions Jonah about Becca Butcher. Jonah reveals that 8 years ago, Becca came to Stillwell after conceiving HomeLander's child, which baffles HomeLander, who was under the impression he was sexually impotent. He reveals that both Becca and the child died on the delivery table due to the amount of blood loss. Jonah apologizes for how HomeLander turned out, admitting that he was his greatest failure. Later, in Syria, US troops approach a drug warehouse under cover of darkness, but suddenly, HomeLander arrives on the scene. HomeLander tells the troops to go for a break, as he will handle the search. Inside the building, HomeLander uses his laser eyes to kill all the assailants. Except for one he accidentally wounded, so HomeLander approaches the man and crushes the terrorist's head under his foot. HomeLander then exits the building, but one of the assailants gets out and tries to escape, but HomeLander simply uses his heat vision to bisect him. At a Vought fundraiser, HomeLander confronts Stillwell over his findings from Vogelbaum. The two of them talk about Becca and HomeLander's lost son. After that, HomeLander admits that he planned for Naquib to show up just as they needed to sway Congress into letting them in the military. HomeLander admits that he and A-Train used Compound V to supercharge terrorists, much to Stillwell's shock. HomeLander says that there are soups that only the Seven can fight all over the globe now. Stillwell takes Homelander to her office, where the two have sexual intercourse. However, Homelander seems to find the activity painful. Then, when Homelander and Stillwell are lying on the couch, spending some time together, Stillwell reveals to Homelander that Mr. Edgar offered her his job in the future, but Homelander worries whether Madeline will still be there for him on the day-to-day. They both promise to not keep any more secrets from one another. Stillwell apologizes for not telling Homelander about his child, as she wanted to spare him the pain. Stillwell says that Becca died from miscarriage, a different version from what was told by Vogelbaum. Homelander realizes that and starts raising suspicions. Later, Homelander arrives at her house just to find Billy Butcher after putting an array of C4 explosives in Stillwell. Homelander brings Teddy, believing that Butcher would not put the child in danger. Homelander pushes Butcher, boasting about the sex he had with Becca. Homelander questions Billy's endgame, to which he reveals he just wants to hurt Homelander. Questioning if Butcher has any proof that Homelander killed his wife, Billy goes quiet, with Homelander questioning Stillwell about Becca and his baby. Homelander goes on a rant, furious that Stillwell hid secrets from him again. Then, Homelander reveals that he went back to Vogelbaum and got the real truth out of him, that Vought put Becca and her child into witness protection for the past 8 years. Stillwell admits that she is scared of Homelander, to which he appreciates, kissing her one last time before shooting his laser vision through her eyes and head. Not so after, Butcher decides to release the trigger, which detonates the explosives. After the explosion, Butcher awakes on a lawn. Confused, he sees Homelander standing over him. In a house near them, a woman and a kid appear and go to see them. Butcher is shocked to see Becca alive, with a child. Homelander questions if the child knows who he is. However, he reveals that he doesn't. Homelander reveals to the kid that he is his father. Sometime after Homelander showed Butcher that his wife was alive and that he had a son with her, Homelander held the funeral for Translucent, along with Translucent's family and his son. Homelander lies to the nation that Translucent was killed by the Soup terrorists and that he will kill them to avenge his death, doing it so for the people, for America, and for his dear old friend, Translucent himself. He even cries after saying that, making everyone there applaud him. Later, at Madeline's former office, now an empty room with little furniture, Homelander opens the fridge and finds a bottle of her breast milk. Homelander grabs it, then smells and warms it with his heat vision, and then he drinks it. Ashley walks in on him awkwardly and thanks him for helping her get Madeline's old job. She says she'll fill her shoes as best as she can. She says that they found them a new hero to replace Translucent. At the gym, Blindspot, a blind superhero, is seen training. He is skilled, doing a lot of acrobatics and showing his skills with a staff. After the training, Ashley introduces Blindspot to Homelander and explains to Homelander that Blindspot fits a specific demographic that will really serve the Seven's image. Homelander greets him and tells him he's a hero moments before bashing his ears in and asking a terrified Ashley why on earth he would allow a cripple to be a part of the Seven. He threatens Ashley to tell him every single thing that happens in her job and explains that he is the boss, not her. Then, Maeve and Homelander shoot a commercial for their Save America campaign about defeating the supervillains. Soon, Stormfront comes to the set and introduces herself as the newest member of the Seven, shocking Ashley, Homelander, and Maeve. Stormfront explains that Stan Edgar made it happen. Stormfront live streams the whole meeting to her fans on Instagram, and Homelander fakes excitement, but soon walks away in a huff. Homelander pays a visit to Stan Edgar, where he asks to be consulted on the new additions to the Seven. Homelander threatens Stan that he might move on when his contract is up at the end of the year. Stan asks him what he knows about Frederick Vought, the founder of Vought. Stan explains that Homelander is under the impression that they are a superhero company, when in fact they are a pharmaceutical company, and Homelander is not their most valuable asset, but Compound V is. He accuses him of distributing Compound V around the world to terrorists and says that HomeLander is not as significant as he thinks he is. While HomeLander and Queen Maeve were discussing things while taking a break from filming a movie, Ashley shows HomeLander footage of his fight against another super-terrorist in Africa, which results in HomeLander killing the super-terrorist with his heat vision, but also accidentally killing an innocent teenage bystander who succumbed to HomeLander's heat vision as well. HomeLander hand-waves it and asks Ashley about how many views the video received before Vought scrubbed it off the internet. He then goes to a demonstration where people are protesting against HomeLander for his war crime. HomeLander gives a speech about how freedom comes at a price, but this exacerbates the protest, to where HomeLander has a vision of him using his heat vision on the protesters and killing many people. But then he decides to leave the protest and flies away. Troubled by the results of the protest, HomeLander goes to Stormfront for her assistance in helping him regain popularity. Stormfront helps him by churning out memes like "better there than here," as well as denying the footage as fake. HomeLander returns excited and breaks up the confrontation between Starlight and Stormfront. In one of the fewest moments of gratitude, HomeLander thanks her for her assistance, to which Stormfront socialites him by asking how he can repay her. The two go back to the Seven Tower and have rough, sadomasochistic sex. HomeLander and Stormfront's relationship becomes official, as the two even having public sex in the same area right just moments after they kill a criminal. Later, HomeLander has a surprise for Stormfront. However, she tells him she can't see it right now, and that she has a meeting at the Seven Tower with social guys that won't take any longer than 20 minutes, when in reality, she ventures to Sage Grove Center to check on the patient results. Reluctant, HomeLander lets her go. Eventually, HomeLander gets tired of waiting and is suspicious that Stormfront lied to him. So HomeLander visits the Seven Tower and finds no information from anyone about her meeting or that she was even there. Enraged by the lie, HomeLander returns to the movie set and burns down his trailer. Stormfront arrives at the set, where HomeLander calls out her lie. Incited further by her continued talking, HomeLander grabs her neck with his fist and squeezes it. The two meet back at the Seven Tower, where Stormfront apologizes for lying to him. Still raw from the event, HomeLander dismisses her apology attempt. Stormfront then promises she will tell him the truth, starting with her real identity. She goes to a nearby chest filled with a Nazi uniform and a dagger, a Liberty costume, old newspapers, and a stack of photos. Showing the photos to HomeLander, she reveals that the old woman in the photo is not her grandmother, but her daughter. Continuing, she explains that she was born in 1919 in Berlin, where she became a member of the Third Reich and had her daughter with Frederick Vought, who also gave her the first successful Compound V injection. She continues to explain Frederick's true intentions were not to create a shallow superhero entertainment company that Vought is now. Rather, it was to create an army of Aryan super soldiers to launch a global race war. She congratulates HomeLander, calling him the one to lead the army and that he is Vaught's true destiny, while confessing her love to him. After she finishes explaining, HomeLander grabs and passionately kisses Stormfront, simultaneously forgiving her. HomeLander and Stormfront meet in the middle of a crowd and explain the most recent breaking news. Stormfront first addresses the recent supervillain paranoia leading to a shooting at a local convenience store as being unacceptable, and Vought will donate to Samaritan's Embrace in honor of Kuldeep Singh. HomeLander then continues to fuel the crowd's paranoia and hatred by addressing the recent supervillain immigration. Stormfront attacks Victoria Newman and the opposition by stating they can't just let the supes into their country, additionally stating the superheroes are there to protect the citizens. She continues stating they will need more Compound V and need more superheroes, and the crowd begins chanting in support. HomeLander stops the chanting and announces that Starlight is a traitor to the Seven and has been captured and contained where she can't harm anyone, further earning Starlight negative publicly by stating that she conspired alongside the same people who killed Translucent. After the speech, HomeLander meets with Stormfront privately to discuss how they're going to deal with Starlight. HomeLander thinks that it is a mistake to keep Starlight alive because he underestimated her once, but not again. Stormfront assures him to trust her. By keeping Starlight alive, it will cause the public to rally against a common enemy. He then notices Stormfront staring at a baby girl and asks her if it reminds her of her daughter, to which she agrees. HomeLander then says he wants to show her something. HomeLander and Stormfront drop into Becca's backyard, interrupting Becca and Ryan playing with Legos. HomeLander introduces Stormfront to Becca and Ryan. He then apologizes to Ryan for pushing him too far last time and promises never to do it again. Stormfront then meets Ryan and asks about his powers and tells him he is the first natural-born superhero. However, Becca discourages her from talking about Ryan's powers and states HomeLander should inform her next time he wants to visit. HomeLander explains to Stormfront that Becca doesn't want Ryan to talk about or use his powers at all. Regardless, HomeLander continues stating that he wants to be around more and he wants a family. HomeLander, Stormfront, and Becca watch a Lego animation Ryan did of The Blind Side. Both HomeLander and Stormfront pretend to be interested. They both then ask if he likes other kid things like video games, YouTube, or one of HomeLander's movies. Ryan is then interested in one of HomeLander's movies, however, Becca says when he's older they'll talk, but HomeLander dismisses her claim by saying Ryan is old enough for those movies. HomeLander and Stormfront continue to urge Ryan by telling him about things he hasn't heard of, ignoring Becca's comments on talking later. Becca then demands HomeLander to talk with her outside. HomeLander agrees and leaves Ryan with Stormfront while he and Becca talk outside. Becca believes HomeLander is trying to take Ryan away from her or trying to turn him into something he's not, but HomeLander states he has Ryan's best interest at heart. He explains that he was raised exactly like Ryan is, and he knows that if Ryan finds out about the real world too late, it will mess him up. HomeLander doesn't want his son to go through what he did. Becca tries to convince HomeLander that Ryan is different and won't turn out like him because Ryan has a mother. HomeLander then points out a flaw in Becca's argument that she is lying to Ryan and hiding the truth about the outside world from him. Becca states that it is for his own good and begs HomeLander not to tell Ryan. Soon, after Becca finishes making dinner, she finds Ryan outside with HomeLander and Stormfront. Ryan calls Becca a liar, revealing that they showed him the truth. The neighborhood is fake, and there is a whole world outside the complex. HomeLander doesn't deny it, saying Ryan deserved to know the truth. After Becca fails to convince Ryan, HomeLander suggests that Ryan needs some space and to come with him, to which Becca refuses and grabs Ryan. Ryan runs past Becca and jumps into HomeLander's arms as HomeLander and Stormfront fly away. Later, HomeLander stands in the 7 Tower watching a news article about the recent events that have happened until Stormfront walks in. He asks her about Noir, to which she explains Noir is alive but unresponsive, possibly suffering from brain damage. HomeLander expresses concern over the recent events. However, Stormfront reassures him not to because of the Congress hearings attack. HomeLander then tries to deduce just who killed Vogelbaum. After narrowing down the search, he suggests that it could possibly be Mr. Edgar. Stormfront then tells him to relax because, despite the sacrifices, they're close to accomplishing their goal of creating a soup army. HomeLander asks her about the wrong people, to which Stormfront tells him that Frederick had a solution for everything. Soon, HomeLander and Stormfront head into Ashley's office to check on Ryan. HomeLander apologizes for leaving his son alone because his work requires him to be very busy. HomeLander then suggests they could play a game together, but Ryan tells him he'd rather memorize the US states. HomeLander calls it unnecessary, but Ryan says something Becca taught him to do, to always be learning. HomeLander's tone quickly changes when Ryan asks if he could call his mother. Before anyone could answer him, Stormfront intervenes by suggesting they go to a restaurant, to which HomeLander approves. When they sit down at a table, Ryan is initially overjoyed, until fans approach HomeLander and Stormfront wanting to take photos with them. Ryan begins to panic and becomes overwhelmed by the crowd. HomeLander stops the photos and checks on Ryan. Ryan begs for his mother, so HomeLander carries his son out of the restaurant and flies away with him, leaving Stormfront at the restaurant. Stormfront tracks them down to a cabin and asks where Ryan is. HomeLander tells her Ryan is inside and wants to be alone, but Stormfront convinces him to go talk to Ryan by saying he's the strongest man in the world. HomeLander and Stormfront enter the cabin and find Ryan curled up on the couch with his back turned towards them. Ryan apologizes for freaking out, but HomeLander reassures him that he messed up and should have known better. Ryan explains there were too many people, and HomeLander still reassures him by telling his son the first time he was exposed to crowds. HomeLander explains he knows that feeling of drowning in crowds. Ryan asks him what he did. HomeLander admits he flew away, and Vought found him 80 miles away crying. Ryan then asks HomeLander if he cries. HomeLander admits he does, but only once in a while because he's a man. HomeLander then suggests that maybe Ryan will fly away too next time. Ryan then says he can't be just like his father. HomeLander then tells Ryan that he had no one to teach him how to use his powers because everyone around him was too scared to get near him, so he had to learn on his own. He then offers to be a teacher to his son and show him how to use his powers. Ryan then hugs HomeLander, and HomeLander puts his arm around his son. HomeLander looks up to see Stormfront smiling at him. Soon, HomeLander and Stormfront are encouraging Ryan while he tries to use his heat vision on an action figure of the deep. When Ryan fails, HomeLander encourages him not to give up and then tries to teach a tip that will help. He tells Ryan that it helps to think about someone he hates, but Ryan insists that he hates no one. Stormfront then intervenes and tells Ryan that he can't afford to not hate because they're under attack. HomeLander expresses a face of discomfort as Stormfront continues to lecture Ryan on white genocide. He tries to ignore it and encourages Ryan to focus more on using his heat vision to defend himself and the people he loves. HomeLander then encourages his son to try again, but before he can finish his sentence, Stormfront interrupts him when she finds out information on her past was leaked to the public. HomeLander and Ryan return inside the cabin and watch the news about Stormfront's leaked information. While they watch, Ryan asks about the word malfeasance. Before HomeLander can explain the definition, they're both stunned in pain when they hear the distraction Frenchie made that admits a frequency of over 190,000 hertz. HomeLander tells Ryan to stay in the cabin while he leaves to go stop the signal, leaving Ryan covering his ears in pain. HomeLander approaches the frequency's source, a collection of Vought ultrasonic speakers, and promptly destroys it with his heat vision. When HomeLander returns to the cabin, he finds 7 Vought mercenaries asking about Butcher. He then hears dispatch on their radios ask if they secured the boy. HomeLander closes the cabin door and questions them, "Where's my son?" With no answer, HomeLander then splits one vertically in half with his heat vision and shouts, "Where is my son?" After slaughtering the men, HomeLander walks out of the cabin covered in blood, and he prepares himself to get ready to find Ryan. Then, a blood-coated HomeLander flies in from the sky in the middle of the forest and sees the aftermath of Ryan using his heat vision. He finds a charred, unresponsive, and critically injured Stormfront. HomeLander kneels down and attempts to touch her, but stops himself. He clenches his fists and begins to sob a little. HomeLander then asks Ryan if he was the one who hurt Stormfront. Ryan explains he didn't mean to. HomeLander stands up, motions, and tells Ryan to come to him. Ryan walks away and moves behind Butcher, who refuses to let Ryan go. HomeLander silently laughs and demands Billy to hand him over. Butcher refuses, and HomeLander sarcastically questions Billy if he's going to blow himself up again, all to save the boy who killed his wife. Butcher still refuses, saying he promised Becca that he'd protect Ryan. Before HomeLander can attack them, Queen Maeve intervenes and demands HomeLander to leave them alone. Homelander questions, what if he doesn't? Maeve shows him the footage of him abandoning the passengers of Flight 37 to die. She then blackmails him to let Butcher and Ryan go, to stop hunting Starlight, and to leave her and Eleanor alone, otherwise she'll release the video footage. Homelander then threatens to destroy everything and everyone if she does. Maeve challenges him, saying for him to do it, because everyone will see the monstrous lunatic he really is, and no one will ever love him. Homelander starts to lose his mind as he starts hearing the crowds chanting his name in his head. He stands paralyzed and starts to cry as Butcher picks up Ryan and walks past him, leaving Homelander paralyzed by his emotions and thoughts. Later, Homelander appears at the public announcement after Stan Edgar address him. Homelander speaks on the stand and says that Stormfront has been incarcerated and she wrongfully framed Starlight as a traitor. He then welcomes Starlight back into the Seven. He continues to thank Maeve and Starlight as his eyes twitch more and more violently with each word he speaks. Homelander does several interviews about how he fell for the wrong woman and didn't foresee that Stormfront was a Nazi. These are lies, as he still has feelings for Stormfront and continues to visit her in the hospital. Homelander grows increasingly tense and unstable, lashing out at those around him. At the studio, Homelander runs into the Deep, who gives him a big hug. Homelander seems confused that the Deep had an interview slot on the Cameron Coleman Hour show before him, but Deep explains it's for his new book. Homelander asks again, tensely, how he got a slot before him. The Deep tells Homelander he's a nobody and that he never should have been before him. Later, Stan invites both Starlight and Homelander to a meeting at Vought to inform them that they will be co-captains of the Seven. Homelander is outraged about having to share the spotlight, but he is unable to do anything about it, and so he has to agree. Homelander confronts A-Train about getting fatter, claiming he's just eating his feelings and making the Seven, and him, look bad. Homelander seems to be taking out his bad mood from the co-captain thing on others. A-Train mutters, "Fuck you," under his breath, triggering Homelander to grab him by the back of the neck and yell at him to repeat what he said, all the while threatening him with his laser eyes. Later, when it's Homelander's birthday, he goes to visit Stormfront, who can seemingly barely breathe and talk. He asks her to wish him a happy birthday, but to no avail. Later, he goes to help save a girl, Chelsea, who's about to kill herself by jumping off a building. He initially tries to explain how pointless her jumping is, because he easily could catch her. However, on a nearby building, a news clip airs announcing that Stormfront is dead now. Homelander notices this, in shock due to the fact that the love of his life has seemingly killed herself on his birthday. He then rants to Chelsea about how he doesn't have a real birthday because he was poured from a test tube. He only continues to spiral into his ramblings when he compares himself to Jesus, questioning how it is fair that humans get saved, while a beautiful and perfect God referring to Stormfront gets killed. Frustrated, he tells Chelsea that maybe she should jump after all, but Chelsea has a change of mind and says she doesn't want to anymore. Blinded by his rage, he threatens her by shining his laser eyes at her, indicating that if she does not commit suicide, he will force her to, or give her a fate worse than death. On American Heroes, there is a big special for Homelander's birthday. A man in the audience at the special screams, "Homelander, your Nazi died," attempting to frustrate him. Starlight tells the audience that everyone, including Homelander, makes mistakes and that he deserves a second chance before transitioning to the Starlight House. She tells the audience that Homelander is going to donate $10 million to the Starlight House, but he interrupts her by repeatedly saying, "No." Homelander states that he doesn't make mistakes and that he is better than everyone else, going on a long rant about how the audience needs him and needs him to save them. Soon, Homelander finds out, much to everyone's surprise, that his polling numbers are up after his rant on TV. His fans think he's confident and unapologetic. Then, Homelander forces Starlight's hand to choose the Deep as one of the new members of the Seven, and she concedes after a lot of back and forth. To celebrate, HomeLander invites the Deep to a seafood feast, much to his horror. HomeLander tells everyone that no one can stop him now that he knows that people love him for him. He brings the Deep a live octopus called Timothy. The Deep tells him that Timothy is his friend, and he can't eat him. HomeLander tells him to eat Timothy, to the Deep's horror. But afraid of the repercussions of not following HomeLander's orders, the Deep obeys. After the new members of the Seven are announced, HomeLander unexpectedly announces that he and Starlight are also in love, and they kiss on screen. Ashley informs HomeLander that Victoria Newman is doing a press conference about him. He tells her to find out what's going on. HomeLander manages to convince Victoria to not turn on him, but rather on her adopted father, Stan Edgar. Victoria exposes Stan at the press conference, and HomeLander pays her a visit afterwards, commending her on her decision to stand by her kind. Stan is forced to step down, paving the way for HomeLander to be the head of Vought. So HomeLander is now in charge. He tells the board to promote Ashley to CEO, knowing she'll have his back. Soon after this, when news of Soldier Boy breaks, Starlight tells HomeLander they need to handle this situation directly. HomeLander tells Ashley to book the news channels to tell everyone there is nothing to worry about. Then, HomeLander confronts Maeve about betraying him because he can smell Butcher all over her. She tells him he's crazy and doesn't know what he's talking about. He asks her if their love was real, and she tells him that from the start, she hated him, and beyond that, pitied him. When she turns around, Black Noir attacks her and knocks her out. HomeLander is in the crime analytics room reviewing camera footage, which shows Soldier Boy walking away after killing Crimson Countess. Then he snaps at Ashley after she suggests giving a press conference to reassure the public that everything is under control. HomeLander opens up to Noir about his stress about Soldier Boy's recent actions. Receiving no reply, he pats Noir on the shoulder, praising him as his only friend, then leaves. Alone in his private quarters, his reflection in a mirror starts talking to him. He expresses his fears about being defeated by Soldier Boy and asks himself if taking over the company was the right call. His mirror self reassures him that he will get them out of trouble, just like he always did when they were young. HomeLander confesses to the real reason for rebelling against Stan Edgar, wanting to be loved and admired. He also blames HomeLander's failed relationships and his need for affection on his human side, which the reflection sees as a cancer that must be removed in order for HomeLander to be free and pure. Later, HomeLander goes to the T&T twins' house to find Soldier Boy to kill him. He confronts Soldier Boy and Butcher in the ravaged building. He quickly incapacitates Butcher with his heat vision. Unbeknownst to him, Butcher had had a Temp V injection and was still alive. HomeLander confesses his previous admiration for Soldier Boy due to his near-equal powers, but Soldier Boy scoffs at him and brands him a cheap fucking knockoff. HomeLander calmly replies, "Oh no, I'm the upgrade," before attacking Soldier Boy. HomeLander soon gets the upper hand on his opponent, pinning Soldier Boy to the wall with prejudice. But the newly awakened Butcher assists Soldier Boy, and with the arrival of Huey, the tide of the battle momentarily turns, and they manage to pin HomeLander for a moment. HomeLander vigorously fights free and escapes through the roof. Later, he applies concealer to cover up a bruise when he meets Maeve. HomeLander explains how Soldier Boy is burning the V out of some supers' bodies, and that it could happen to any one of them. She tells him he's the only one of them who cares about being a super. He tells her he always dreamed of having kids with Maeve, and that he plans to harvest her egg. Then, in an attempt to discredit Starlight and distract his fan base from her allegations against him and Vought International, HomeLander makes up conspiracy theories about her during a rally, lying to the crowd that Starlight is using her charity Starlight House to traffic and abuse children. He also condemns the media and his opponents as biased and corrupt, claiming they are simply trying to destroy America's greatest hero and last line of defense. During the speech, HomeLander thinks he sees Soldier Boy and his eyes light up, but he wasn't there. So he tells the crowd he loves them and leaves. He finds a cow in a farmhouse and milks it. Soon, Victoria Newman finds and confronts him. She derides him for his speech and harshly advises him to get his act together. Overextending her hand, HomeLander lashes out and seizes her by the throat, daring her to go on. She manages to convince him that she can be a worthwhile ally after handing him a letter. Later, HomeLander finds Starlight at Vought and tells her to recant everything she said on TV. He tells her that fame is the only thing protecting her. He warns her what will happen to Huey now that she betrayed him. She tells him she's been recording him to her 190 million viewers, and he tells her she's not supposed to be recording while they're running lines. Then, HomeLander argues with Ashley on the phone about Starlight's secret taping. He gets a call from Soldier Boy, who tells him that the situation has changed. He tells HomeLander that he realized that HomeLander is actually his son, because back in 1980, he put his sperm into a cup in a lab. In 1981, a baby was born from that sperm, and it was HomeLander. HomeLander finds Ryan using the documents obtained from Victoria Newman and compliments his rapidly improving fastball. Grace runs outside and tells him to stay away, but HomeLander tells her he just wants to see Ryan. Ryan asks HomeLander if he's mad at him for what he did, and HomeLander, in a rare moment of gentleness, comforts Ryan over his guilt. He tells Ryan that their incredible strength sometimes entails accidents, and that HomeLander understands this and will always love Ryan. Later, HomeLander sits in his room watching his numbers drop in response to Maeve's imprisonment until Ashley interrupts him to explain Maeve escaped. Black Noir then returns and HomeLander hugs him, relieved at his return. HomeLander later meets with Noir as they prepare for Soldier Boy's arrival. HomeLander confides in Noir that Soldier Boy is his father and asks what he is like. When Noir vaguely answers his father is bad, HomeLander confronts Noir, asking if Noir always knew who his father was. When Noir nods, HomeLander cries that he has been lied to all his life. HomeLander then punches Noir in the abdomen and rips out his intestines. HomeLander remarks Noir should have told the truth sooner before he leaves Noir to die. HomeLander then meets with his only remaining allies, Ashley, the Deep, and A-Train. The Deep tries to plan that they could use Noir as bait, but HomeLander reveals he killed Noir for keeping secrets. HomeLander vents that he always wanted a family and team, but instead is stuck with them. When Deep offers to help, HomeLander asks the Deep to kill Lamar Bishop, the VP nominee, as part of his agreement with Victoria Newman. He then humiliates Ashley by ordering her to take off her wig. He then turns to A-Train and questions A-Train's loyalty after he murdered Blue Hawk and how he could kill one of his own kind, while his hypocrisy is being displayed by Noir mask propped upon the table. HomeLander reminds them that Noir was worth more than all of them combined, and that none of them are safe from his wrath should they betray him. Soon, HomeLander is confronted by Butcher, Queen Maeve, and Soldier Boy in the Vought Tower. HomeLander reveals he already killed Noir, and he merely wants to talk. HomeLander states the situation, that together him and Soldier Boy would be unstoppable. When Soldier Boy isn't convinced, HomeLander brings out Ryan before the trio. Ryan greets his grandfather, and HomeLander insists the three of them could be a real family and never be alone ever again. Soldier Boy appears moved, wishing he could have raised HomeLander to be better than him, but he harshly rebukes HomeLander instead and restrains him for a blast, along with Maeve and Butcher. HomeLander, seemingly unwilling to fight, is saved by Ryan, whom attacks Soldier Boy with his heat vision. HomeLander still does not resist Maeve or Butcher, instead urging Ryan to run upstairs, away from the fighting. Soldier Boy recovers and brutally hits Ryan unconscious against the wall, and HomeLander rushes to tend to him. Soldier Boy prepares to blast both the distraught HomeLander and injured Ryan, but Butcher attacks him, giving HomeLander enough time to turn and violently blast Soldier Boy out of the room. As fighting breaks out between Soldier Boy and Butcher's crew, HomeLander finished tending to Ryan before turning to resolve the situation. He is punched by Queen Maeve, But he insists not to fight right now because Soldier Boy is a bigger threat, but Maeve only continues to attack him. He defends himself while insisting that she stop with increasing malice. Eventually, she hits him hard enough that his nose bleeds. He's forced to incapacitate her and promptly gouges one of her eyes out. Maeve then stabs Homelander's eardrum with a metal straw and stuns Homelander. She stops fighting when she tackles the dangerously nuclear Soldier Boy out of the building, ending the prolonged spectacle. Homelander regroups with Ryan after a silent confrontation with Butcher, and Ryan leaves with his father. Later, Homelander shows up to a rally and introduces the crowd to his son, Ryan. The crowd cheers for them both until a vocal Starlight supporter loudly denounces Homelander as a fascist and throws a can at them. He hits Ryan, and Homelander immediately shields Ryan before locating the man. Enraged at the man's protest, Homelander splatters him on the spot with his heat vision. After a stunned silence, the crowd slowly begins applauding Homelander, and Homelander looks uneased, but eventually smiles for the crowd. So far, this was everything that we got to see from Homelander. So yeah, that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.